As everybody knows, jockeys' careers are extremely dangerous. You never know when that next fall is around the corner, and it's so important that not just mentally but in terms of their general attitude, the jockeys are prepared and they know that there is a life outside of racing.
It is a very difficult time when you hang your boots up. I retired in 2007 and we'd all like to sort of step into the ideal job, a racing manager's job or something like that, but those kind of things are few and far between.
I'm not sure that enough jockeys think about what's going to happen after they finish riding. It's much and all as we'd love to keep going and ride forever. It's unfortunately not going to happen.
I think it's down to the individual when they approach that stage of retirement. And let's face it, the average national hunt jockey retires at 31. The average flat jockey retires at 33. They're pretty scary figures. There's a lot more years of working beyond that period. And it is down to the individual. It may be because of an injury, it may be because of lack of opportunities. And we've seen this year with more registered national hunt and flat jockeys in the system, it is becoming tougher for a number of them to make a living out of the game.
There was a real stigma involved with talking about careers after racing, because generally, and I think there probably still is a little bit of a stigma, that if you're thinking about the future, your bottle's gone, or something's gone wrong and your heart isn't really in it.
Probably was a sort of a mindset that if you started looking at doing something else, you were ready to retire. But I think the guys that are riding these days now, maybe there's been a shift and that isn't sort of the mentality anymore.
Like younger jockeys now, they don't think, like I see it when I'm doing the Race in Excellence, they think all they're going to do for the rest of their lives is ride. They've got to plan early. They, when they've got winters off or they're not so busy, they should do their courses while they're still riding.
So many people are just so trapped in racing that they don't feel that they can come out and do something else. And when you get the help of Jets, you actually realise that it's a broad, big world, and it's nice to still be able to go and visit yards and horses and things, but actually do a job that's out of that,
Without Jets, I wouldn't have got my degree, and without my degree I wouldn't have got on the graduate programme. And once I got on my graduate programme, I got a call from BBA Ireland, who are one of the biggest bloodstock companies in Ireland, in a business promotions role, to represent them in the UK. And that's what I'm doing now. For the first 6 months I missed race riding, yes, but I think you realise there is more to life, and it's a big world out there. You've got to get out there and use it. And use Jets, because they will massively help you.
Definitely asking for help from Jets was the right thing to do. I should have thought about it right from the start of my career, because a jockey's career isn't a lifelong career anyway. So I'd advise anyone to go, and you can still ride and do a course.
I started to plan my new career really about 3 or 4 years before I started, before I did retire from riding. When I first started looking, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do, so I contacted Jets and I did a couple of different courses through them, just to give myself options really when I knew that I was going to retire. And then actually for the last 2 years I was riding, again through Jets with the connection, I started working for the British Horse Racing Education Standards Trust on a part-time basis, and actually sort of developed that for a couple of years before I went full-time for them in 2008.
We're very lucky in our country, with our racing, with Jets, to have such a good thing to look after us. From being in the weighing room for quite a long time now, I think it's kind of turned around where jockeys are thinking it's very important. The lads are thinking the same now, where you've got something to fall back on.
Well, when I finally sort of thought, right, that's it, I'm getting a couple of rides a month, I need to do something about this, I think I emailed Lisa and was like, help, where am I going to go from now, what am I going to do, I've had enough. And we sort of discussed, she did some bullet points of what I could do or what I wanted to do or any ideas, and then she's always been there to direct me.
Lisa in particular was a big help, because I'd sort of come to a stage, I was off after I broke my neck. Had a bit of time on my hands, well, a lot of time on my hands, and just had a phone call with Lisa and just basically just met her one day, said what I was thinking about, and then it seemed pretty much before I knew what happened, I was on a plane going to America to the academy out there, which I'd thought about doing, but I know fine well I would have never got round to doing if I hadn't have actually sat down with Lisa that day and she'd said, you know, you need to do this, this and this, and she didn't bully me into it, but she gave me that kick up the backside that I definitely needed.
I do think it's whether it's a jockey thing, you kind of, certainly when I was riding, the career-ending injuries were always, you know, it never happened to me, it always happens to someone else, you know, and there's that kind of arrogance or ignorance or naivety, whatever it is, and I don't ever think, stood here now, I don't think you can ever think too much about what you're going to do when you finish, because it could happen.
I think I had my fair share of injuries, and during that period when you're injured, I think it's important to get help and go to Jets, pick up the phone, ask them what they would advise. Lisa, for example, came out and saw me 3 or 4 years before I eventually was packed up, and she was a great help and just to help me steer me in the right direction.
I was able to retire on my own terms, so injury didn't force me out, lack of opportunities didn't force me out, I was still getting plenty of rides. I was able to retire on a good note because I knew I had a new career in which to walk straight into, and I think fundamentally that is one of the most important things. I'm a sportsman and I know how dedicated you've got to be. However, I also know that there were times when I had a downtime, relaxing time, that actually why not do a bit of retraining instead of playing that second 18 holes on a day. That's the point Jets is really getting across to riders and indeed trainers, owners, the general public, that actually you can be a very successful sportsman, but you can also look to the future. From my point of view, to be able to do something I enjoy twice and be successful twice at it, I believe I'm terribly privileged.
It wasn't until I got injured that I started thinking maybe I should do something, and I ended up doing an ECDL, a European Computer Driving Licence, through Jets, which was great. Didn't think I'd do anything with it at the time, but here I am, I'm using computers and now into a company that does heart rate monitoring.
It's a lot of satisfaction you get from the job. When you're riding, it's a very fast-paced industry. You know, you're riding to win. When you win, it's fantastic. You can be on TV. You're riding, with the general public. It's a great buzz, and the lifestyle that a jockey brings, also, it's fantastic, which is something I'm sure people miss when they leave. It's only a short time you have them. We're only planting a seed. It's only 9 weeks, but to see them progress in 9 weeks and to leave them, hopefully, if they do well, we find them a job, and to then hear in a year's time they're still there and they're riding and they're loving the work they're doing. It's to be a part of that's where the satisfaction lies.
Obviously, it was a very, very difficult decision to stop riding. It's something I'd always wanted to do, and for the first couple of years it did take me a long time to get used to not riding, and when I went racing I'd always think, oh, I haven't made the right decision, but when you look at it overall objectively, I feel that I've got a much more rounded lifestyle and I'm progressing where I want to be.
Jets was fantastic support for me, because when I first realised that I was beginning to draw the curtain on my race riding career, I needed some, not so much reassurance, but sort of some advice. I knew what I wanted to do, but I just needed a little bit more structure of how I was going to do it. And that's what Jets is set up towards doing, and it worked fantastically. I went and had a meeting, a one-to-one meeting, which was confidential with Lisa, and it just left me, when I walked away from there, I felt positive in the decision that I was going to make, because it's a big decision in anyone's sort of life to suddenly sort of instigate a career change, and yeah, for me it was definitely the right decision.
I can't emphasise enough how important it is to start training early. I was passionate about race riding, and there's always going to be a bit of a stigma attached to the fact that you're training while still riding. Don't worry, times are changing. People are accepting that your career doesn't last forever. And when your career finishes, it's important to have everything in place that you can walk straight in.